Hello and welcome to Riverside Crafts again. I'm Ray from Ray's Crafty Creations and I'm going to be doing a short demo today looking at some cards using some of the new stamps by Jane Gill from Woodware. So this is the first card I'm going to do. So I'm going to show you how I did that. And here's my piece of card, just in case you wanted to know. The piece of card I'm stamping on is 10 centimetres by 10 centimetres. I'm going to put it in my stamping platform. And I'm going to put my tree where I want it for the first stamp, not this. Okay, so I'll put it down. I'm just going to put my bits on so I don't lose my piece of paper in a minute. I'm going to be using Versifying Clair, and this colour is Twilight, so it's sort of like a really dark tealy colour, which is really pretty. Okay, so I've just done that one. And I'm going to put that down. Give it a good old push down. Okay, now I'm just going to move this along because I'm going to now be doing a second generation stamping with it, which means I'm not going to be re-inking my stamp. I'm just going to look to see to put it to one side slightly so that I've got it where I want it, which is about there. Okay. Right, and that's now giving me my lighter image. Okay, just going to leave that there for a second. I'm going to take my tree off and put him back there for a moment. And I'm going to get my sentiment. Now the sentiment that I've been using is off of the Bubble Bauble, which I will be using another day to do a demo, but at the moment so I'm just going to be using the sentiment. I'm going to put it where I want it, which is about there. And line it up squarer a bit more. Make sure that this bit of card doesn't go for a walk. Pick that up. Just going to ink it quite quickly. These are often what I refer to as a clean and simple card, which makes life very easy for Christmas. Now, if you're ever having questions about what I'm doing, if they're not answered by whoever's watching it from the shop for me, then I will endeavour to answer them at the end when I read through your comments, because at the moment I can't see my phone because it's upside down, so I've got no idea what you're trying to tell me or what you're asking at the moment. Okay, so it's going to be matte and layered onto some darker blue card. Got some twine. I'm just going to wrap around it before I get to, so the twine gets wrapped around here. Okay, scissors. It's a good job the weather's getting a bit brighter again, because it's been miserable, hasn't it, this week. I think we had one nice day, which after all that sunshine seemed a bit of a letdown, but never mind. I'm sure summer will turn up eventually. Okay, I'm just going to put some glue on the back of this. The layer that's underneath this top piece is 11.5 centimetres by 11.5 centimetres. The stamp is actually called the Mini Tall Twiggy Tree. I won't be saying that too quickly either. Okay, I'm just going to put a couple of gems on. Now I only ever buy silver gems because I colour them if I need a different colour. So I just buy the cheap white ones that we have about. And mine haven't got any glue on the back because I've had them so long, because you know. So I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on the back of it and put it down. And then Christmas is really the only time I actually use gems and things on stuff, because I'm not really a sparkly person, but they work quite nicely for Christmas cards and things. So just gives it a little bit of a thing. And so that's the first topper done, which is nice and quick, and it's a clean and simple card, so you could actually repeat that quite quickly and do quite a few for Christmas quite easily, which would be nice. So that's that one done. So my next one, using the same stamp, is this, and I'm going to be stamping with white ink this time, so I've got to make sure I've cleaned my stamp properly. Okay, and I'm stamping onto navy blue card, which is 14 centimetres by 10 centimetres. I'm going to put it back in my stamp platform. Okay, there's my white ink, which is Distress Ink Picket Fence that I'm using. Just get my tree, make sure I've got him clean. So I really don't want my white ink going blue. And that. Right, I'm going to put it in place because this one has 3 prints on it. So I'm going to move my card 3 times when I'm doing it. I'm just going to put it where I want it there. There we go. So that's where I'm going to start off. So I've got me there. Right, let's just make sure I'm going to put my ink on. Now I found that I had to sort of like double stamp this because it wasn't very white the first time, so I sort of did it a couple of times with the ink just to give me a little bit more of a definite white. Okay, so that's that one done. I'm just going to move it across again like I did before. I'm just going to have a look. Yep, about there. A little bit of more white on there. Okay, and then this time I'm not going to ink it because I'm going to do a second generation stamp, but because this one had 2 layers of the white, it's brighter, and then this one has only had 1 layer, so the next one will be lighter as well, which will give it a bit more of a going into the background. So now you can see that they've all sort of faded off into the distance, which is quite nice. Okay, so again I'm going to put my sentiment on. I should use the same sentiment this time because it's the one I've got out, so it makes life a bit easier. So I'm just going to put that there, which says Winter Blessings, which is quite nice actually. It's a nice little sentiment, this one is. Where's the white ink gone? Here it is. I'll put it down. I forget my head sometimes. So I'm just going to stamp it up. Again, this might want doing a couple of times so it's nice and bright and a bit more to be seen. That's the benefit of using the stamp platform. You can really keep going until you've got that colour that you're looking for. So it's nice and definitely white. Okay. Now I did a little bit of, you probably notice I've got here and I've got a star. So what all I did was I drew this in with a gel pen. So using my gel pen, I just sort of put a few little dots going up and down to create the fact that I've got actually ground and my trees weren't flying around. Okay, because it just sort of gives it a bit more to look at when you're behind it. So it looks like your trees are on the ground, which gives it a bit more of a thing. And I can draw my star in. And I just put a few dots around him like that. So that was how I did this one. So it's nice and simple again, nice and quick. It's matted and layered onto white card so that it stood out with it being navy on the background. Okay, and the background piece was 11 by 15 centimetres. So that is that one done, nice and easy. Right, I'm just going to clean my stamp again to get the white ink off. So I put that one back there. Okay, make sure I've cleaned my stamp. Okay, and I'll put that one away. And the next one that I'm going to be using is the mini pine branch. Okay, and I'm going to be doing a basic, we're going to be doing something quite simple. So just put that bit out there. Here's the pine branch. We're going to be making this card here, which is just the branch going across the top, and then looks like it's holding some little baubles. So we're going to do this one. I've got the card picked out here. Okay, so my piece of card that I'm starting off with is 9 by 11 centimetres. So it's not very big. Okay, I'm just going to put that in there like so. All right, here's my pine branch. I'm going to move this across slightly because I want a little bit of a gap in between from where this is. So I want it right at the edge, so it can go right at the edge. I'm just going to make sure that I've got space for it to be there. Okay, if that makes sense. So I've just moved my piece of card across slightly. Take note of where you've put it in case it does jump up and you don't know where you're at. So line it up to actually one of the measurements and make sure you've noticed what it is, just in case the paper gets lifted up with what you're doing. Again, I'm using Riverside Clear Twilight. Okay. So I'm going to put this here. And do, which is quite good. So that's one, and I'm going to put a second generation stamp on, so I'm going to pull this right way back again now into where it would be so that I can get my second generation stamp on. And I'm just going to lift that slightly because I don't really quite, although it's got ink on it, I'm going to be very careful because I don't want to drop it, but it's not quite in the right place because I want to line it up like so. Okay, now I'll put it down, and I've got my second generation print behind it. Right, so I've got this for here, and what I did next was I found I've got some fine liners, so I found one that was a reasonable colour match, and using my ruler that I can, I lined up my edges so that they sat, and I drew myself some lines coming down. I make sure that they are all nice and level and not going off and doing something weird and wonderful, which I'm very good at doing. Didn't really want wobbly lines or lines going at weird angles because that wouldn't really work. Okay, so now I've got my 3 lines dropped down. I'm just going to draw the top half of a bow in, and now you can use any gems you've got that you would like to use to make it look like you've got a bauble. I'm using these are some I've had for a long while. I think they are something dome, sparkle domes or something they were called, but I've had them a long time. But they look very nice for Christmas. But any slightly larger gem will work quite well for this. And that was that one. You can put a sentiment on if you would like to, but I've drawn my lines a bit too long for this one, so I shan't bother this time. I could put it on something else and put it on, so it's not a bit, but there we go. So that's, then he's lined up onto some navy to make it look quite classy. If you used dark greens, it would look nice. You could make it look a bit more, and then sort of do your strings in a different colour, would look pretty. So you've got lots of options with it. So that's that one. And now we're going to do the one that's a little bit more involved, because that's your 3 really quick, clean and simple ones. And now we're going to do this one, which is the wreath. And I'm going to, the only stamp I'm using again, I'm going to be using the pine branch that we had, and I'm going to use the bauble, but I'm using the bauble only to literally stamp the ribbon off of it. And the reason I did that was because I had the bauble here, so it made sense for me to just to stamp the ribbon. So here is the bauble stamp, okay, and there's the bit I've just stamped off of it, which is the ribbon at the top half here, because that's the only piece I needed. If you actually looked on my Facebook, on Riverside's Facebook this week when you were doing it, you would have actually seen the actual stamp in its hole, which is this one. And all I want was the ribbon from the top for the wreath. As you can see, I actually turned it upside down on this, and it looks quite good that way up. So that's the ribbon bit. So that's going to be in a minute. Okay, and now we're going to be doing the wreath going round. My piece of card is 14 centimetres by 14 centimetres. And as you can probably see, I've drawn a circle in pencil very lightly onto my card because I need something to follow around so that I've got an idea of which direction I'm going to be taking my branches. Okay, so I'm going to stamping block and I've put my branch on it. Put all my bits out of the way for a minute so I don't get in the way. And I'm going to be using VersaFine Clear again, and this one is a green and it's called Shady Lane. There are lots of different greens and bits and it's quite nice to use. Okay, and I will do first and second generation stamping as I go round. So we start at the top and I'm aiming to keep the spine part of my branch as close to the circle as I can. So I've put him down once. And then I'm going to bring it round slightly and put my shadow in, which is my drop one. Okay, there we go. And then I'm going to do another one. Take this up again a bit more so it goes in. Make sure it's pushed down. Put this one on to do my second generation one. Put there. There we go, and we're just going to go following it round as we go. Okay. Okay. So I'm building it up as I'm going round, and my wreath is sort of starting to take shape. We're nearly there. Now when I'm going around, if I think actually I could have done with another stamp in, I can always add another stamp as I'm going round. Doesn't have to be spot on every time. So if you've done a bit and you think actually I don't like that, I've missed a piece, so you can go back over it and do it again and add a bit in, because like here that's a little bit too open between the two stamps, so I'm just going to add another one in just to sort of make sure that all links in better than it does. And that's, so I'm just going to put one there like so. Okay, so that is my wreath gone round now. Okay, clean it off a bit. Now with the wreath come 3 little dots which show you berries, and I'm using a distress ink for these, and it's festive berries because I just thought it sounded right. So I'm just going to put some of those on, and you're just going to put them wherever you think. Try and put it where you've not got too much dark green and you've got a little bit more space, because you want them to stand out and not disappear so much. But they help to give you some shape in what you're doing. Don't go for an even number. So if you're doing put sort of 4 or 5 on, and spread them around a bit. And when you've done that, you want to be looking and thinking, oh, do I need any more, or is that enough? There we go. I think that will probably be okay actually. So that will do me for that. Clean my stamp off. Okay, now I'm just going to show you how I painted my bow, so you know how it went on. Right, the colours again I'm using are festive berries and then aged mahogany, and I've got them on my blending mat. Okay, And I'm using a small watercolour brush to do this, nothing too fancy. And I'm going to start off with the lightest colour, and I'm just going to give most of it a go. Now I'm not so worried if I go over my edges on this, because I'm cutting the whole thing out. So my being incredibly neat in some ways is not something I have to panic about, because I am going to be cutting it all out. Okay, so if you go over the edges, don't get in a panic because you're cutting it out. All right, but by the same means, do try and keep, it's good practice if you can, especially with red, because red is not a friendly colour to paint with. If you get it wrong, it sort of sits there and doesn't come, you can't sort of rinse it out or anything. It leaves a mark behind, even with all of the different things you can use to try and pick it up. A little bit more water, because I'm starting to drop, the brush is drying off. Okay, so giving it all a bit of a coat nearly of the red. You see it's quite a nice deep red, this one is. It's quite nice. The card I'm using is Sheena Douglas's stamping card, so it will take a bit of water, but I'm not using watercolor card for this because it's not really, I'm not painting enough of it, if that makes sense. It's not there to be spend hours over. It's a fairly quick paint on it and bits, so you're not looking at being around. You can't, or I can't spend hours doing my Christmas cards because I have quite a few to hand out, so I don't have all that time. And now I'm picking up some aged mahogany, and I'm just going to put it in where there's going to be shadow. Okay, now my aged mahogany is actually quite dark because it's actually from the re-inker, because my pad had gone dry, so I thought I'll just get the re-inker, and the ink is actually a lot darker when it comes out of that than what it is off the pad, or it appears darker, but probably because you can get more of it. A little bit on the edges here, and then I blend that in. Oh, that's a bit too much water, take some off. There we go. Red. Put a little bit of the dark bit here. Brush a wrench, pick up the bright red, pull it in. Get that a bit of a thing. I need a little bit of the darker here as well, because that ribbon there is just, oh, take some of that off a bit, that's a bit heavy. There we go, that's better. A little bit of shadow there. Take the bright red and just blend it in. Take the brush up, a little bit more there. Okay, there'll be a little bit of shadow here where it would go in from the boat. So just put that in, clean my brush off a minute, pick up the bright red and brush that in, follow that down. Just go over them all again, give them a bit of a thing. So that's basically how I paint my bow. Nice and quickly, give it a little bit of shape and shadow, and then I cut it out. So here's the one I did a bit earlier. So it cuts out, and and although the bow is actually like that when it's on the bauble, because I want the ribbon to, that way rather, I want the ribbon coming down into the bauble, I'm going to turn it upside down so that it looks like the ribbon's coming down into the bauble there. I'm just going to shape it a little bit, not too much, but just a little bit, just to be able to make it look like it's curving. because it just makes it look a little bit more sort of like things are happening around it. I've got a few foam pads which I'm just going to put down. Oh, where have I put them? I've put them away. Typical. You always put things away when you want to use them, don't you? Right, here we go. Foam pads. Got some bits cut up here already. Okay, that will do me. Take these off. I hope you found this interesting today and enjoyable. And that I'm going to be looking at doing some heat embossing for the next one. So keep watching. And that we'll go from there and we'll do the next ones. Right, so this one then was matte and layered. Okay, put that in place. Oh, come on, glue. Didn't put your lid back on, did I? There you go. By the way, if you're wondering, the glue that I use is the Pinflares bookbinding glue. And I really like it because it has a really nice, neat nozzle, which means I don't end up with glue everywhere. Okay, now I'm just going to put my sentiment in the middle. Again, I'm using the Winter Wishes one because it's a nice small sentiment. And I'll stamp it with the Twilight. Okay, I'm just going to put it where I can see it. Just there. And there we go. So that's that one finished now. So today, in the sort of the half an hour that we've just had to play in, I've made 1, 2, 3 different toppers using 2 stamps and ready for Christmas. There we go. I hope that was helpful. I hope you enjoyed it, and keep watching, ready for next time. Thank you for being with us. I really enjoyed seeing everybody, so thank you.